Hello, I'm Dr. John Beckem, professor for self-management and self-marketing. And today I have a personal friend of mine, Richard Sellers, who I work with on a weekly basis in SCORE. And we help small businesses either expand, that want to grow, and some that kind of start up from scratch, and determine whether or not it's feasible for them to start a business. And if so, how can we help them? So I'm honored today to have what I consider to be an expert in marketing. So welcome. And if you could start off by tell us a little about yourself and your background.
Well, thank you, John. And you mentioned the key word, which is marketing. I'm fundamentally a marketer. I've got quite a bit of general management experience and consulting experience, but my core, my soul is marketing. That's what I love, and I have my whole career. I'm currently, in addition to working with you at SCORE, which I enjoy a lot, I'm a chairman emeritus of the Marketing Executive Networking Group, which is 1,000, 1,200 or so marketing executives. I ran that for several years. That keeps my hand in the game, which I really enjoy. Within the last 4 or 5 years, I've done over 150 coaching sessions with members of this marketing group.
Okay.
And usually coaching them on how to find a job, sometimes how to do their job better. Mm-hmm. And also do blogs on career, do webinars. In fact, make an offer to you right now that you can send out to your students a webinar, which I'll put on another week or two, but I'll send you the PowerPoint, that's how to improve your resume in 60 minutes.
Oh, excellent.
And it's chock full of information. Hate to put it this way, it's a data dump, information dump. It's not a soft, fuzzy, pretty picture type PowerPoint. I also blog for several different, what I call distributors, mm-hmm. different group blogs, and spend a lot of time on this general area of how do you keep people up to date. About 3 years ago, I edited a book called Overcoming the Digital Divide, trying to help people typically over 40 who were behind the curve on what's happening in our new digital world. That was a lot of fun.
Okay.
And I was the editor, certainly not the writer of that. Earlier in the career, I was at General Electric and Procter & Gamble. I think I was at 8 companies and must have had 20, 24 bosses, about that many clients when I was consulting, and ended up running marketing as a top guy for 3 multi-billion-dollar companies with a budget as much as $400 million. What you and I have found is the size of the budget really doesn't matter. Our SCORE clients, which are small businesses, are using the same thinking and strategies that the big companies are. Obviously, their tool set's different, the amount of money they can spend is different. And also, the move toward social media has added things, really not subtracted anything, but has added some tools to that category. And when you think about me and marketing, I have to go all the way back, and this is perhaps unique to high school. I got interested in journalism. I worked a little bit as a reporter in a daily paper and have a degree in journalism from University of Missouri. So everything I look at in business includes the idea of those classic questions: who, what, when, where, why, how, and in business I added how much. And if there's one takeaway from our conversation today, I hope your students will use those classic journalism questions as look at projects and their own career, because it can help you analyze and come to a path that you should take. And again, it's just who, what, when, where, why, how, and how much.
Now, are those great questions also for a student who's reflecting upon themselves? So even before I enter in the job market or begin searching, let me ask those questions of myself to determine what's my competencies, what are my strengths, what areas do I need to improve on, and how can I be an asset to a corporation?
You just did. That list, the way you went through is perfect.
Okay.
And there's only a few words there, but you can apply them in many different ways. Who am I? And that's so soft in some ways, but it takes a lot of thinking. What makes me happy? What do I want to do? What am I good at? Why should somebody hire me? What should they hire me to do? Why hire me versus somebody else? How am I going to accomplish this project, which I've never seen before? Mm-hmm. Who can I get to help me? you can go through that litany and you probably have 1,000 ways you can apply those few words to come to a thinking process and uncover both strengths and weaknesses in yourself, in your approach, in your team.
Oh, great, great. Now, part of the project and the course is over 15 weeks, so we have many projects in helping a student self-reflect as well as project looking forward. And one of the initial points is resume, them building their resume and developing it. I'm quite sure as VP of big companies, you've seen probably a plethora of resumes.
Yeah.
Are there any do's and don'ts or tips that you would convey to the students and recommend for building their resume?
Well, I'll start in the process of getting to the resume and make another recommendation. It's a book that's been updated annually for, I'm guessing, 40 years, at least 35, called What Color is Your Parachute?
Okay.
It's the 101 course of how to find a job. And it applies a lot of things, even what job should you be doing, and there are projects in there that I highly recommend. And I recommend this book instantly to college students, who I see usually a couple a year trying to help them, to CEOs. So it is very useful. It's a little fundamental, but if you will go through there and really work on it, it'll help you. What I found with my marketing executives is they have several problems. One of the biggest is that they tend to say, I can do whatever you need to have done. I'm really good. You should hire me. That's BS.
Yes.
It's factual, but it's not useful. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming I'm going to hire somebody that has an excellent track record. Now, somebody coming out of college has a much different track record than a 40-year-old VP. But everybody has a track record for what they've accomplished relative to their peers, and that's who they're being assessed against.
Got it.
And so you go through and figure out, the first or a couple of questions I ask when I'm interviewing somebody. The first one is, who is going to hire you? And it's a most likely. And that starts with a category and some company names, so you get a general idea. The second thing coming through there you got to build when you're thinking your resume is, what are they going to hire you to do? And that's a combination of title and level, and under the title some function or functions. Then the next question is, why are they going to hire you, John? Why are they going to hire me? And that's where you put together an elevator pitch, a very specific brand or positioning. You can work it either way. Different marketers love jargon. It's like every field has their own jargon. But your brand, you have a positioning. And what you have to communicate, like Vine does in about 6 seconds, which takes the elevator pitch even shorter, is a hook as to what makes you different. What makes you, phrase I use, uniquely useful.
Yes.
And you won't be the only person in the whole world that has that talent, but you need to come across with a specificity of focus. And if somebody can say, oh, this is a person who has done stuff, factual. You're from Saratoga also, so you know the name Tom Durkin, who was until end of August the world's best announcer at horse racing. Said you got to have a plot. That's the facts. That's what you've done. And you got to have a narrative. And the narrative is a story about you. And that brings the plot alive, takes it into a future tense, so somebody can view you from your history and the way you present yourself as to what you can be and can be for them. And it goes back, the more you understand who's most likely to hire you, and the better your understanding of why they're going to hire you and what they're going to hire you to do, you put the facts you have, and they are facts, in such a order and combination. You blend them in such a way that you'll stand out as being very appropriate for what that firm needs. And I say firm, it's really either a boss, a hiring manager, or a hiring team. Sometimes shall I say, muddied up with the HR department.
Yes.
You've got to learn to work with HR, but you're really hired by the department you're working for most often.
Great. I mean, you just gave some great information, some solid snippets, and I kind of want to unpackage these systematically.
Okay.
So that's some great information for someone that's building a resume. They forward thinking of who's going to look at this,
Yeah.
and trying to properly disseminate the accurate information that is useful. Mm-hmm. All right. So now they have the resume in hand. What about the marketing and self-marketing? So there's a self-marketing strategy, and then there are self-marketing tools. Can you talk about...
We are here, folks. There we go. We're obviously not moving around very much. This is not a verbal
right.
light. Yeah, that's funny. So let there be light.
Yeah. So can you talk about a little bit about the self-marketing strategy versus the self-marketing tool, and how to properly use both of those for the person's student's benefit?
And these things overlap.
Okay.
Very much. The most important thing is to earn respect of people who have respect. So you can do that many ways simply by doing a good job in whatever you're doing. That can be, with your professors in the coursework, with your teammates. Some of the best job openings you'll ever hear of come from your peers, who may or may not even be in the same field. But you start by earning respect by people who have respect. Because if you or I are asked for, who do you know, we are only going to give names of people that we think would reflect positively on us.
Absolutely.
So that says I give very few references, and the references that I give are targeted to where I think the person will fit both job skill and corporate personality, because both are about equally important. Mm-hmm. If you take that as first step, and you've heard every time we meet, I think I say, okay, who do you know? Do you have a database of them? Build your database. And that can be at many different levels of this respect, and you do go out broader than what I'm indicating. So that's a first tool and first strategic approach, and they're really combined. And if you don't have a network, the first thing you need to do is start building that network. And I will admit, and I'm sure it's got to be true with you because it's true with about 98% of people, a number I made up right on the spot, that you're not keeping your network up to date.
Oh, absolutely.
So for the people who are 2-3 years into their career, let alone 20 or 30, this is a lifetime requirement, because I'll say life happens. I'll clean up what I usually say. Life happens. Uh-huh. And there are going to be times when you need your network. Yes. Maybe to get a job, maybe a reference. Very often you need a contact in a completely different field. You're looking for a lawyer, a developer, whatever. You go to your contact list first. And that's still what's very old-fashioned. That's the first part of networking. After that, you can go out in a broader base with social media, etc.
Social media is a great segue. Our students are learning some of the social media tools that are out there. LinkedIn is the most popular right now, but that's not the only one. Yeah. So what ways or avenues can an individual begin to self-market themselves using social media?
Well, we're talking professional jobs now, so let's go with LinkedIn first. Okay. And LinkedIn, I just did a kind of analysis of 13 members of my marketing group who I know are really good at self-promotion. And they all had 500 plus contacts. Most of them are people they actually know or are from groups that they highly respect. A few of them are open-ended. They have a positioning, like we just mentioned, on there. They have content that shows their full history. Not necessarily their results, but at least where they were, what the title was, what they're responsible for. They have managed their endorsements of skills so that they're fitting into what these people actually can do and want to be known for, because that's relatively speaking your brand, that list of skills. That's what people think you are. Therefore, accurate or not, that's kind of who you are from a branding point of view. And they go through. They're putting information on there. They're putting PowerPoints or videos, on there. That is, and joining groups. You've got to join and work with the right groups. And so pick. I'm probably a member of 40 groups, but I work with probably 5 or 6 that I'm most interested in. The rest are just kind of just sitting out there. And I think that's a good approach. As you're younger, you won't have as many, but you need to build that up. And those people go back to people you respect, people who know you, and you build that. And it is fine to find people you would like to link to that you don't really know and introduce yourself with a very personalized note. And as you're working through that, LinkedIn for careers is number one. Okay, it's a full stop, take a deep breath, then you go on and think about other things. There are people who are using videos like this to really build their awareness and reputation. Blogs, I do a lot of blogging. I really enjoy it as a way to give information, and the blogs I'm on, I think, says a lot about me. It's not just what my blog said. I'm on Ming Online, which is a marketing group. I'm on ShellyPalmer.com, which is my personal guru. That's the interface of entertainment, media, and technology. I'm on a small one for small businesses that I just think does a wonderful job. And then I'll get picked up most of the time by business to communications. Mm-hmm. A very nice source there. So that's the first thing, and I would do that right, the LinkedIn, and then move into video or blogs. Now, if you're in a design business or something that is very visual, you're going to use the YouTube much more. You're going to use Pinterest. There is no one list right for everybody. So think about your industry and how to communicate that. I enjoy Twitter a lot. I send out marketing and career information on Twitter and keep it fairly small. I think I have about 700 followers. I don't care to go too broad. That's not my objective. I want to be of use to people I think are highly interested in the subjects I'm communicating. So everybody needs to fix their list, realizing that after they go through and analyze it, you can't do it all, but you need to do a certain amount. And it's a way to just communicate what you would have 10 years ago via, post office. Mm-hmm. In fact, direct mail, I think, is maybe, and I'm guessing this, I've done a lot of direct mail, maybe more successful today than it was 10 years ago, because I don't know about your inbox, but other than the catalogs, I don't get much mail.
No.
And, and
so occasional bill.
Yeah, so I look at my mail.
Yeah.
10, 20 years ago, an inbox like this, who could look at all this?
Right. And now the inbox, which is overfilled and flooded, is now my email.
Oh.
And you're right. Now I tend to try to scan through my emails because I'm receiving so many. And
the new Google or Gmail approach, which is just in beta testing, sounds like a more confusing answer to the simplistic chronological order that may be, intellectually it's fantastic. From a practical point of view, I'm not sure it's going to be doable. Right. Maybe version 6.
Yes. And Google is known for starting things, figuring out whether or not it works or not, continually, or either slamming it.
Oh, yeah.
But, so we found a systematic pathway, which is great. So you gave us some great tips for polishing the resume, and then moving into building your personal network that you're going to need, and then self-marketing yourself through your network as well as through social media. And so if a student has progressed through that properly and successfully, now they have been granted an interview. What is your recommendations for, number one, preparing for the interview, and then number two, delivering the interview?
Well, it's I'm going to do about a 90-degree twist on those questions if I can.
Yes.
Let's take the table and help you understand what the people on the other side are looking for.
Excellent.
Okay. And I know we had a conversation, John and I did last week, and his thing is basically, what are you going to do outstanding for me first day, first week, I've forgotten.
First day, you got to be able to hit the ground running. So just as a recap, when I was hiring, I was a hiring manager and I was hiring individuals, I'm looking for a few key things. Number one, first question I'm going to ask you, what do you know about the institution, the corporation? I want to understand whether or not you've done your research, where there's a lot of public information that's free. Secondly, it doesn't hurt to call someone in the department. You know, on the internet, you have most people telephone numbers. Call them. Hey, sir, ma'am, can I ask you a few questions about your company? You know, I'm potentially going to be a future employee of your company. So I'm going to ask you, what do you know about the company? Number two, give me an assessment of your strengths. You know, and so after you give me an assessment of your strengths, since you already know about the company, how can you make this institution better? You know, so based upon what you know and your strengths, how are you making it better? Where do you see this company needs to go in the future? What are we doing well? What are we doing not so well? And the things that we're doing not so well, do you see yourself as being an immediate impact to help us solve those problems or either progress positively and successful in the future? And if you can't answer those questions, then you're of no asset to the corporation.
And what you heard John do there is put you on the spot to come to a conclusion. You know, to make a recommendation, realizing you got to hedge it a little bit, well, based upon what I know, or, you know, here's what it looks like based upon my research. And it's critical to have done that research. But the way you're going to be judged is really on three things. And this is from talking to a lot of executive recruiters who are friends of mine. Number one is, do they believe that you can do the job you're being hired to do? And that comes back to who's going to hire me, what are they going to hire me to do, and does that fit make sense? And there may be 10 things they need you to do. There'll be a primary 2 or 3. Those you got to be able to do. You can learn 8, 9, 10, but you got to be able to do the core things. So can they do the job? And it's assessment, not fact. Second thing is, are you going to like doing this job we want to hire you for? Now, this is not because the company is so nice and wonderful and paternalistic. It's because happy employees stay longer, do better work, and cause less trouble.
Absolutely.
So they want you to be happy. Maybe not giddy, but happy. You know, pleased you're there, because they get more out of you for longer. And it's a win-win. You know, cliche, but one that fits. The third thing, which is, do they think, based upon a resume, a cover letter, and a few hours of interviewing, that they like you? And it's really hard. This is kind of like, you know, what's the conclusion in the first date? Do they like you? Do they want to spend more time with you? The way I phrased it was at 8 o'clock at night, in the middle of the budget season, when you're working 15 hours a day, is this somebody you want to be working with? If it is, it says they can do whatever it is you're hiring them to do, and you like being around them in a high-pressure situation. So those three aspects, skill, you know, ability to do the job, they think you're going to like doing a job, and they think they're going to like you, which means you'll fit the culture and personality, are the hiring criteria. What that says, going back to resumes are thought of as very dry, fact-based. Well, what they also need to be is a communication of persona. You got to get a little facts and a little personality in there. And the personality's got to be done by others more than yourself. LinkedIn has this great list of 10 words they put out every year, which are the most BS words you've ever imagined. I'm an energetic, go-getter, results-oriented, you know, world-class. I mean, you can just imagine the list. And they put out this list every year. They're really sad. And what, so you can't say it like that. What you can say is, I was selected. You know, you show your promotions, but I was awarded, you know. I was a team member. I was selected to be in this multi-divisional or functional team. That, you know, those are good things.
And they're very unique and personal.
Oh, yeah.
So it shows that you were not just on a committee or you were not just there at a particular time, but you actually engaged and participated and contributed something of meaning and value.
Yeah. And those are wonderful thoughts. And as you get up, and even as a junior manager, if you can say, in effect, I had two of my employees were promoted. You know, that speaks world of you, because it's a 360-degree world that you're being analyzed in. And so if you have cross-functional peers, if you have bosses and higher-ups in other divisions who ask, you know, if I'm a marketer in it, I say that the CIO asked for me to be the marketing representative on the project. That's big time.
Absolutely.
So show that you were respected and trusted, which is a different thought than like, but a very good one. So you have broad-based supporters within the company. And on the things, what I call the last line, it shouldn't be probably more than one, if you show volunteer efforts, company like to see a little volunteering. They don't want to see somebody who's so committed that they're doing 20 hours a week volunteering and don't have enough time to do their job. But they like to see that, because at all ages and levels, you learn skills, you learn teamwork in a different environment.
Absolutely. Another great segue. So, person has the resume, they've marketed themselves properly through their network, social media. They understand the interview process, looking at what the employer is trying to extrapolate from the interview. Now they have the job, so now they're in the corporation, right? And so now, talk a little bit about the self-management, because a lot of times where you start in a corporation is not your aspiration. You know, you kind of want to go through promotions and get to maybe a more senior position. So there's a part of that's self-management. You know, you're managing your own career, as well as, even though you're already in the corporation, you're still doing some self-marketing.
Oh, absolutely.
So could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, one of the things is trying to figure out what you want to be. You know, I always say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still saying that, okay? I know it's got something to do with marketing, but other than that, let's have fun. So if you're in a job in a company, your first assessment really is, do I fit the company or not? Second is, within that company, what do I think I'm good at? A little bit, what do I like? You don't want to ever get in jobs you dislike. I mean, you know, it's okay for a project, but not a long-term job that you dislike, you're unhappy with. But if you're in a company you like, and you're in a general area you like, then you're trying to gain experiences. So you want to be the person who is known for being willing to take a risky next project, because you have the support and the of the people around you, and you're a little bold. You're a little, you know, you have confidence that you'll find a way, and they have confidence you can too. Now, a good boss is going to give you enough rope so you can, you know, be a little dangerous, but not so much that you're going to fall off the edge of the world, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And so look for those projects. Look for projects that take you a little outside of your core area, because when I say I like marketing, well, I was in advertising, branding, direct response, internet, lead generation. I mean, I've been all over the place. They all interconnect, but they take very specific different skills. And when you're younger and earlier in your career, it helps to get more of those skills. There's always the argument, and there is no answer to this, but there is two paths. You can be the world's expert in. That's what I call the senior scientist role. You can also be a generalist. Now, I'm a generalist within marketing. I have some friends who, any subject I would take or tackle, any project, I have friends who are better in that subject, that subdiscipline than I am. And that's where I need to know who to bring in. That goes to the network, how to get them to work together well.
Your resources, maximizing your resources.
You got it. And that can be employees or it can be consultants. It's better if it's employees in many ways. But you've got to kind of, over time, you will end up in one of those two paths. At least most people do. And there's not one better or worse than the other, not one that necessarily pays better than the other. It's just, what are you best at? What do you enjoy the most? And, you know, I've met some people literally who should be left in a cubicle, never talked to, and paid a lot of money okay, they can do what they can do better than anybody in the world, and they love doing
And
it.
they're very productive.
Oh, they're great.
And efficient.
Yeah, and I know other people who, and I'm directional in this saying, after a couple of years, I start getting bored. I got to have another stimulus. So it's all different. And if you learn that about yourself, you'll move forward. The other thing you need to learn is what makes your boss happy, and that sounds kind of crass, but it's not. You're going to keep employed if you're doing a job you need to do, because it is kind of a what I call a light switch, and not a rheostat. You can do it or not. Now, to get progression within that, there's a couple of things I always say, and the first one is, by having you there, is your boss more likely for him or her to continue being employed? Real simple concept. If you're causing trouble someplace, if you're not getting a job done, you're less likely to be there because you're risking his or her job. The second thing, which is not, and maybe equally important, it's a little softer view though, is, are you making your boss's life easier? And that can be, those things overlap is what cause that. But if you go over to IT, and I use that a lot because marketing and IT have to work so closely together. It's been that way for about 20 years, and in the future it's almost going to be one group in many ways, except for the highly technical aspect of IT. But if your boss knows you can go on a project that has IT and somebody from the CFO's office on it, and they're going to, as you walk in the door, say, "Oh, there's John. This is going to be a good group. We're going to get things done with minimal hassles." That boss loves you. Okay, if he says, "Oh, I got to send John over," and last time he worked with IT, I mean, the project got done, but I got all this bad feedback. You're probably not long for that job.
Right.
And so think of that, John. Your boss keeps employed, and their life is easier. Now, if your boss is a small business owner or runs a P&L, it also helps if you're making them money. Saving money is almost as good as making, by money I mean profit, not just revenue.
Right.
So that's a third measurement. Probably should be the first, but a lot of jobs, the profitability is more removed than in marketing and sales. What I focus on.
All right, so great. So we're talking about self-management and self-marketing within the corporation. I'm going to throw a scenario at you.
All right.
All right. So you're the senior, executive VP of marketing, and here's someone who's have great aspirations, and they get in the elevator with you.
All right.
And you have the ability to make things move.
All right.
Promotions and things of that nature. And here's someone who wants to do an elevator pitch.
All right.
Because that's actually an assignment that I have within the course.
Oh, I know it well.
So there's two coins or two sides to this elevator pitch.
All right.
Number one is the things that you're looking for as the senior VP who can make the decisions.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the coins is what the individual, the student, should be doing to prepare to have a successful elevator pitch. So let's take either side first, and then we'll flip to the other side.
Oh, yeah, this is a toughie. This is phrased differently than I've thought about much in the past. But we talk about elevator pitch so much, but it's more in a finding a job. And I think the smartest thing there, if you're from either side, is something that's fact-based, that's important to both people. So, and this is like dangerous territory also, because you'd love to tell the senior person, "I just did this on this project." However, your boss may be orchestrating making that communication in a week with fuller information and taking more of the credit than he or she probably deserves. All right, so it's dangerous to be too out front with that. But if asked, hey, what's going on? It'd be very easy to say, hey, I'm in this great project with 4 or 5 different functions where we're working on the the development of the new website or platform, and I'm the marketing representative, or I'm the controller on it, whatever. And hey, this is a great project, going very well. I'm betting you're going to be hearing the details of this soon. So you said, I'm part of the team. I'm really doing, having fun. It's going well, and you're going to be hearing about it soon. And so you haven't talked, quote unquote, cliche out of school.
All right. I like that. Now, let's take the other side where you did mention an elevator pitch for someone who's looking to land a job.
All right.
And I like that side.
All
So
right.
speak to that.
Well, I think it's about a 3-stage thing, and I used to, nobody knows the right length, but I always say 3 to 15 words. The other way to look at it is you can get online. So if you can do it in 6 seconds, think of that as a hook. And all that's trying to do is get some interest and get the general idea. Like the next stage could be 30 seconds or so. It just gives more information, so it kind of cements the interest. Then if there's interest, you can go on for, let's say, 2 minutes, and then you follow in. But it's never a long conversation. It's an exchange of information. So my background, what I finally learned after I'd been hired for this once, and I got smart and used it the next 2 times, was I rebuild marketing organizations to quickly increase sales and profits.
Very succinct.
So that's what I do. And if you got to deliver that much differently, tone of voice, to different people. Like if I'm at a Chamber of Commerce networking function, I'd probably say I run marketing departments for and just at that, if there's any interest, then and somebody has and you could also say, if you have any marketing questions, I love to talk marketing. If you have anything I can help you with, please let me know. That goes into, there's a cliche now, playing it forward, and that just means being helpful. If you give information, if you give content, if you give value to somebody, you have just made a contact. If you say, I'm looking for a job, here's what I do you know anything? Nobody should give you the time of day. So provide that information. It could be, I'm using marketing examples, but I'm a project manager. Several of our score counselors have that expertise, and I've just been running the most fascinating project probably my whole career. And it's begging somebody to say, oh, what was that? And if they're not interested, they walk off. You'll never have 100% hook. If you're fishing, you don't get every fish you pull on, I don't think. I don't fish. I don't know.
Those are great. So some takeaways that I heard you say, which are paramount, is concise, accurate, factual, and being able to have the ability to build upon that if needed. But you start off with something very concise, factual, that gives informative information about yourself and your abilities. One last thing that
let me just add 2 things. There's one is personal, personable. So it's a little bit you got some personality into it. It's not just hard fact. And the second thing is there's an expectation you're setting up, or an easy response that somebody coming back to you with.
Great. One last thing, and I'll wrap it up. This has been a great interview. I wanted to discuss a little bit about peer assessment.
Okay.
I think it's very critical to have the skill and the ability to be able to give constructive feedback to your peers and be able to maintain a working relationship, a relationship that you can build upon very positively. And so sometimes that feedback might not be something that a person really wants to hear, but you have to have the ability and the creativity to be able to shape that feedback to where it's factual, truthful, and constructive. So the intent is to actually have you improve and still be able to maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, and obviously this is delicate area, important, or you wouldn't have brought it up, John. But if you think of it, the respect, if you have a respect already built up, it's easier to do this. The other thing I mentioned before, it's a 360 world. So a lot of your ability to get things done and be successful or cause you to fail is your peers.
Absolutely.
In your same department or other departments, either way. And when you're looking for networking contacts and all, your peers are going to be a good source of that. It's not just people who are more senior, more advanced in their career. So what I find is immediate is better than delayed. Praise, when praise is due, allows you later to then mention some negatives. Or you can do what I call a 1-2. And I don't mean 1-2 punch. I mean, first is, hey, this went really well. We should go out and celebrate this. And then, but the one thing that you and I could have done better. And if you say you and I instead of you, it's going to be helpful. And if it's combining something that is a flaw with something that went well, then you've got, I think, a more receptive audience. You can also say, we were really lucky today. They could have killed us on this point, and they didn't. We got to protect ourselves next time. And you can approach it that way. But it starts with, is there a relationship? If you walk in someplace and you have a bad relationship already with that person, it's very difficult to give that negative feedback unless they report to you. So at that point, you have to be even more so, it's us, not you. And sometimes it was them. So you have to come across as honest. And at times, there's no such thing as constructive criticism. It's like, this didn't work, and your bosses will get involved. It's a major problem, and that honesty at that point is the best you can do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. This is great. We'll post this into the course for self-management and self-marketing for the students to be able to extrapolate so many diamond nuggets in this conversation. Again, my name is Dr. John Beckem, and I'm here with a personal friend of mine and Senior VP Executive for Marketing, Richard Sellers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John.